Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Mark Selby, CEO of Canada Nickel Corp, one of the fastest growing companies of last year. Press release came out today. Some exciting news. If you want our thoughts and opinions on what it can mean for the company and future growth, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. There are commentaries from experts from around the world on a variety of commodities and companies. Truly insightful stuff. We've got training courses on there to help you with your diligence process. We do summaries of other interviews that we've done just to save you some time because we know you're busy. And if you want to join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe, friendly environment, free from trolling, abuse, and judgment, and I hope that does sound nice to you, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. We'd also like your feedback, so do give us a like. We appreciate it. Leave your comments below. We'll get back to everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Mark Selby, how are you, sir?
Excellent, sir.
I am glad to hear it. Well, look, I appreciate you taking the call because just hot off the press, seen this announcement, you must be super pleased.
Yeah, no, anytime you can have this kind of breakthrough in your mineral processing, particularly for a deposit where this is so important, the technical wonk is we're changing the grind size by 20%, but what it really means for investors is, we're able to get effectively 15% more throughput and spend 15% less on energy per ton of rock, with this change. And so 15% more throughput means 15% more nickel for, effectively the same amount of capacity. That will add, a large additional amount of NPV and IRR. And again, with the PEA, I, again, would like to get it done as soon as possible. But extending it to incorporate this kind of major shift is important because, these are the numbers that we're going to live with, from now until the feasibility study is ready. So as much as I can say, look at, we're going to have a massively larger resource that's going to go into the feasibility study, and these numbers are going to get even bigger. At the end of the day, these PEA numbers are going to be the numbers that we're going to talk to financiers and partners and so forth between now and year-end 2021. So extending it 30 days seems like a pretty
no-brainer
trade-off.
It's a no-brainer, right? That makes a lot of sense. So off the back of that, we're going to be able to get an idea of the economic. I know you're steadily avoiding what it could mean in terms of dollar terms, but the PEA is the first indication of what that could mean. And given this is a volume bulk play, we should expect something meaningful.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, just take. The Dumont feasibility study in chapter 24 is what we're gearing our PEA on, and that's a 75,000 ton a day starting plant. 15% on top of that is, that's 10,000 tons a day. That's almost 4 million tons extra ore a year. Multiply that by recovery and a grade factor, and you can get to 10 million pounds plus of nickel more per year. So that's a pretty meaningful additional amount of additional free cash flow, which goes right on the top in terms of the overall project economics. So we're very, very excited.
Okay, well, that gives people the equation that they can work out themselves. We've done it beforehand. That's why we're wanted to get on the phone with you. That's exciting. That's genuinely exciting. Here's the potential negative. People are saying, hey, it's delayed. It's been extended by another 30 days. We understand why, but you did the same thing because you were doing a deal with Glencore on the plant to reduce your capex. So there's a bit of delay. So there's always reasons to refine things. But at what point do you put the flag in the sand and go, come on, we're off?
Yeah, no, this is the last one. I'm not expecting another sort of massive breakthrough. Again, Glencore, the chance to start at closer to 100 million US capital versus $1 billion. Again, every project finance person that we've talked to since that says, this is great. This is, this fundamentally changes the economics of this project relative to the other universe of projects that's out here. Yeah. And again, this is a pretty, massive breakthrough step. Remind people for Dumont, we spent, probably more money than we've already spent taking, where we've got to already with Crawford, just on the metallurgy, and they stopped at 150 microns, and we were already 20% beyond that in terms of primary grind because we've just tweaked the reagent suite a little bit. So, I'm not expecting another breakthrough between here and the end of April. So end of April, May 1st, you and I will be having a conversation talking about the results of the PEA. So.
Brilliant. I look forward to that. The question is, makes me think, you can refine things from going forward. You'll shave costs, etc. But
Yeah.
there will still be some big moments through the drill bit, one hopes, as you try and understand what it is that you've got, the extent of what you've got, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, because the key thing here is we have engineered a processing unit, right? We engineered that grinding unit at Dumont, and we're using that primary grind unit to use for this project. First Quantum, does this with their copper projects. They have sort of a grinding circuit that they, that they use in multiple projects. So we've sort of adapted that approach here. So we've got a grinding configuration that we're going to use. And, the huge upside from here is, again, we've had a whole pile of additional drilling announcements. We'll have a big resource upgrade by the time the feasibility study comes through. And so, what it means is, okay, do we go from 1 unit to 2 units 5 years sooner? Do we go from 2 units to 4 units or 5 units in total because we've got that amount of material available? So those again will be very dramatic increases, but as you said, that'll come after we've done the resource update.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a date. I look forward to that. I want to see what those numbers look like. This is getting bigger and bigger. Well done, and congratulations on last year. I know we talked about it recently, but I think shareholders happy, share price looking good. And I'm going to talk to you about, in our weekly nickel show in the club, about what's happening with the nickel price at the moment. So no real surprise to us because we've been talking about it for weeks, but we got to just examine that a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the last 48 hours, the price of nickel has dropped $1. Again, felt it was a little ahead of itself, and we've talked about that. But again, it's something I've been saying since 2018. And you can go to our nickel decks that we've got in our series of investor presentations. There was never going to be any serious class 1, class 2 distinction. You can take nickel units out of NPI and move them into the battery market by making matte. So the big announcement was Tsingshan signed a deal with 2 Chinese refiners, who said they're going to deliver 100,000 tons of nickel and matte, starting in October 2021. At the end of the day, there's no net increase in supply. They're moving units from the nickel pig iron side to the battery side. So, and if anything, this I think will drive a nail in the coffin of HPAL projects, globally. Like why? The world's largest nickel and stainless steel producer, who's basically got giant piles of limonite sitting around, they figured out that, hey, wait a minute, you know what? If I really want to deliver nickel units into the battery sector, I can, just make a pretty cheap change to my plant and then, just drive nickel units that way. So why should I spend $4 billion on something that might not work? So
HPAL beware, but we're going to get into the detail and some of the data in the Crux Investor Private Members Club shortly. Well done today. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Matthew.